That was the worst, but it was also the best. Emotional arc of losing your son. What was the worst time? The worst time had to be when I had to wash his body. You know what I mean?
The man who took Gilly Da Kid's son is never going to prison the person police say pulled the trigger on YNG Cheese. Gilly's own flesh and blood is never stepping into a courtroom, never sitting in a holding cell, never facing a defense table, while Gilly looks him dead in the eyes. That chapter is closed for good, and everybody else who was out there that night. The streets aren't talking, witnesses aren't talking, and the Philadelphia Police Department has officially confirmed they have no evidence that definitively ties anyone to this murder. Devin Spady, known to the world as YNG Cheese, was just 25 years old when he was shot in the back on the 5800 block of Masher Street in Phyllis Olney neighborhood on July 20th, 2023. His father, one of the realest, most respected voices in hip-hop, got that call from police telling him who killed his son, not because someone got arrested, not because someone confessed, but because the alleged trigger man himself was shot 17 times in an alley and died right in front of his own mother. This is the story of a father who lost everything, a case that went cold, a killer who got killed, and a system that failed at every turn. This isn't a clean story. There's no happy ending here. This is Philly. This is real life. And you need to hear this from the top before we even get into the night that changed everything. First, you need to understand who Gilly Da Kid really is, because if you don't know his story, you won't fully feel the weight of what happened. To him, Nasir Fard was born on January 1st, 1984 in North Philadelphia, and if you know anything about North Philly, you already know that environment doesn't raise soft individuals. Gilly came up in the streets, learned the game early, and turned that experience into a rap career that made him one of Philly's most respected voices in the late 90s. He was a founding member of Major Figgis, a group that helped put Philly on the rap map in a serious way. They signed with Rough Nation Records, dropped Figgis for Life in 2000. And had the streets on lock from there. Gilly signed to Cash Money Records, the label run by Lil Wayne, and if you know that story, you know it didn't end clean. He never dropped music under that deal and left in 2006. Then the controversy hit. Gilly publicly claimed he ghost-wrote some of Wayne's biggest bars on that Carter. Wayne denied it. Cash Money denied it. The tension. Legendary, that's Gilly's energy. He's never been the type to hold back or play fake. He says what it is, how it is. Later, he reinvented himself as a podcaster alongside his cousin Wally 267, a man who did 20 years in prison and came home with nothing but perspective. Together, they built $1 million worth of game into one of the most listened to podcasts in hip-hop. Real talk, real stories, real consequences. That's the foundation of who Gilly is, a man who built something from the ground up twice, and at the same time, he was watching his son try to build something of his own. His son, Devin Spady, YNG Cheese, was following that same path. He was rapping, moving around, building momentum. He was 25 years old with his whole life ahead of him. But Gilly has been open about the tension between them. Devin was leaning toward the streets, and Gilly, someone who had already seen what that life really cost, was trying hard to pull him away from it. He said on Club Shay Shay, the no cap, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I was struggling with my son, trying to get him off the streets. We didn't have the best relationship when he passed because he wanted to be in the streets, and I didn't believe in that. There is a weight most people can't even imagine, fighting to save your son and still losing him. That kind of guilt doesn't just fade now. Let's set the scene. Thursday night, July 20th, 2023, Philadelphia, just before 8:30 p.m., the 5800 block of Masher Street in Olney, one of those areas where everyday life and street life collide in ways that don't make headlines until someone gets hurt. YNG Cheese pulled up to that block. Not his block. Gilly confirmed it himself. His son wasn't from there, wasn't tied to whatever was going on. He was only there for about 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and that's all. Took gunfire, broke out, multiple shooters opened fire. Cheese was hit in the back. Reports say it was just one shot, but that one shot was enough. He was rushed to Einstein Medical Center and died within minutes. 2 other men were hit that night. 2, a 28-year-old shot twice in the leg, and a 31-year-old N. A 31-year-old hit in the hip. Both survived. Cheese didn't just a day earlier. Gilly had been posting his son proudly on social media, celebrating him like any father would. And then, 24 hours later, everything stopped. Police responded to the scene. No weapons recovered, no arrests, made no immediate suspects, and that's exactly where the case stayed open, cold and bleeding for over a year and a half. Think about that, over 500 homicides in Philly in 2023 alone. The city was overwhelmed. And in the middle of all that violence, the murder of one of hip-hop's most respected voices' son stayed unsolved. No arrests, no charges. Nothing Wallow 267 posted a tribute to his young cousin that shook the internet. The entire culture showed love. Metro Boomin, 21 Savage, Young Scooter, Sway Calloway, Ebro Darden. Big boy everybody showed up for Gilly and his family. Gilly went quiet for a while, and when he finally spoke, it was raw. He talked about the Islamic burial process, about having to wash his own son's body. He said, "The worst moment was when I had to wash his body. But it was also the best because I became a man that day." That's a level of grief most people can't even put into words. So who was really out there that night? Let's break it down. For months, the investigation moved slow. The Philadelphia Police Department reviewed surveillance, tracked social media, worked sources, and here's what the streets already seemed to know, what investigators were slowly piecing together. That shooting on Masher Street? It wasn't random. Those blocks had ongoing tension. Whatever was happening between those groups, Cheese wasn't part of it. He was just there, wrong place, wrong block, wrong 5 minutes. Police started building leads. They zeroed in on a name, a face. And that name was Noah Scurry, and this is where everything takes a turn. Nobody saw connected definitively that is responsible for this homicide. The Philadelphia Police Department confirmed they were aware of Gilly Da Kid's comments and the speculation online, and said investigators are still reviewing social media and hunting for surveillance footage. So now you've got two realities playing out at the same time. Gilly says police called him and told him Noah Scurry was about to get locked up. The PPD publicly says they don't have definitive evidence tying anyone to the murder. That gap right there. Fam, that's exactly where justice goes to die in Scurry's family. They stepped in heavy. His cousin Brianna McGlynn, 30, went public and shut down everything. Gilly said, "Have they shown?" His son passed over a year ago. They're dragging my family through the mud. She even questioned if Gilly was using her cousin's name to stay relevant and asked people to let her family grieve. You can see both sides here. Gilly got a call from law enforcement. He's not just making things up. At the same time, Scurry's cousin is defending a 17-year-old who can't defend himself anymore. That's a messy human reality. Nobody walks away from that clean. Here's what we know for sure. No cap, just faxing. Cheese Devin Spady, 25, was shot and killed on July 20th, 2023 on Masher Street in Olney, Philadelphia. Was not the intended target. He got caught in someone else's block. Beef at the worst possible moment. Noah Scurry, 17, known as Joker ODV, is the person Gilly says police identified as a suspect. Whether he was the actual triggerman or one of multiple people involved that night remains officially unconfirmed. Scurry was shot 17 times on January 14th, 2025, and died in front of his mother. No arrests have been made in his case either. The Philadelphia Police Department has made 0 arrests in the murder of YNG Cheese. The case is still open. Now really think about that. The person police were allegedly building a case against is dead. The streets have their own version of what happened. Gilly's nephew, according to reports, was even looked at in connection to Scurry's death. All hip-hop reported a cryptic Instagram message after Scurry's killing that said, the body ain't worth it if the streets don't know you did it. Make that what you want. What we can say clearly is this. If Scurry was responsible, then street justice moved way faster than legal justice ever could. The system had nearly 2 years to make an arrest and couldn't even get this case into a courtroom before the streets handled it. And now with Scurry gone, the case hits a dead end. The main suspect is buried. Anybody else involved, that night, drivers, planners, whoever passed weapons, they're still out here living free. That's the part nobody really wants to say out loud, because shootings like that, they don't happen solo. Somebody drove, somebody set it up. Somebody knew that block was about to get hit, and every one of those people might never see a courtroom. Gilly said it himself. When asked why, nobody talks. So when you do something in the streets know he wasn't pointing fingers in. That moment he was talking about the code, the same code that kept witnesses silent on Masher Street, the same code that is investigators still digging through social media 2 years later. With no arrest, Philadelphia is a city where that code runs deep. In 2024 alone, more than 200 people were shot. According to the city's gun violence dashboard, the city's been dealing with a homicide crisis for years, and the clearance rate, meaning how many murders actually get solved, tells a harsh story. When communities don't trust the system, people don't speak up. When nobody speaks up, cases go cold. When cases go cold, the streets take over, and when the streets take over, another family gets that call. Another mother watches her child die. That cycle keeps feeding itself. Let me break this down deeper than just one case, because this speaks to the culture right now. Noah Scurry had everything: straight A student, highest SAT score in his school division, 1 basketball interest, a real way out, and somehow, whether he chose it or got pulled into it, He ended up in a life that took everything from him before he even turned 18. At 16 and 17, he was posting videos with a Joker mask and guns. He was allegedly tied to full-on violence. Before his own life was taken, he dropped his first solo drill track, "A Swing My Door," on January 13th, 2025. The next morning, he was dead. That video now has over 2.6 million views. It stands like a digital reminder of a life that went down the wrong path. Gilly spoke on this with real pain. Because he saw the same mindset creeping into his own son's life, he said, "These kids really think you can't make it as a rapper unless you killed some." That's not preaching, that's experience talking. A man who built a real career, came from North Philly, dealt with Cash Money Records, and built $1 million worth of game into a major platform, telling you straight, that idea is a lie. You don't need bodies to be respected. And remember, Cheese wasn't even the target. He wasn't part of that beef. He just showed up at the wrong place at the wrong time. And a 25-year-old man, somebody's son, somebody's friend was gone just like that. That's the real tragedy inside all of this. Not just that Cheese died, not just that the alleged killer died before facing justice, but that none of this had to happen in the first place. 2 young men gone, a father forced to wash his own son's body as part of burial, a mother watching her 17-year-old get shot 17 times in her own driveway, and the rest of the people connected to that night still walking free despite everything, the grief, the unanswered questions, finding out through a death notification instead of an arrest. Gilly hasn't broken publicly the way people expect. He called Scurry's death divine justice. His words: he had to deal with God. That's a man trying to find peace without ever getting a courtroom outcome, whether that peace is solid or fragile only. He knows he even put up a billboard in Times Square in July 2024 on the 1-year anniversary of Cheese's death to honor his son. He's been speaking out about gun violence in Philly, using his platform to warn young people about the traps in the streets, and you still see him running out with the Philadelphia Eagles before playoff games, repping his city, even after that same city took something. He can never get back Cheese's mother. Tara Toy Fears told the Philadelphia Inquirer that when she heard Gilly's comments on Club Shay Shay, she hadn't been told anything by police linking Scurry to her son's death. She said, "Ye don't even know how to feel about this." That's a mother stuck in limbo for 2 years. No answers, no closure, hearing about a possible suspect, not from police, but from a podcast that's not justice does. That's pain with a different name. Here's where things stand right now. The murder of YNG's is still officially unsolved. The primary suspect is dead. Any other suspects haven't been publicly identified or charged. The investigation is still open, but after nearly 2 years, the chances of this case reaching a courtroom are slim. Noah Scurry, Joker, OTV, took whatever he knew to the grave on January 14th, 2025. His music is still online. "Swing My Door" still pulling millions of views, and somewhere in those lyrics there might be pieces investigators have been studying for over a year without enough to build a case. Everybody else from that night, they know what happened. The block knows what happened. The streets have been talking, but talking and testifying. 2 completely different things in Philly. Nobody's lining up to give statements about a block shooting tied to beef. Gilly said it best: when you do something in the streets know and the streets already handled the biggest name tied to his son's death. As for the rest, the driver, the planners, the ones who watched and stayed silent, they're still free, and they'll probably stay that way. This is what a city in crisis really looks like. Not just stats on a dashboard, not just debates about policy. This is a father washing his son's body, then getting a call 2 years later saying the alleged killer is dead, and the system still can't close the case. Gilly Da Kid deserved real justice, legal justice. His son deserved better than being a wrong place, wrong time casualty. Cheese's mother deserved an arrest, a trial, something real to hold on to. Instead, they got silence and an open case file, because the truth is the gap between what the streets know and what the courts can prove. That's where killers live comfortable. That's where grief sits unresolved, and that's where the cycle keeps restarting. The story of YNG Cheese, Joker, OTV, and Gilly Da Kid isn't just one story, it's a pattern. One 25-year-old gone who wasn't even the target, one 17-year-old gone with a future ahead of him. 0 people in handcuffs, no charges, no trial, no verdict, just grief stacked on more grief. That's what the real streets look like when the cameras stop rolling. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about how Philadelphia and the system overall failed this family, and tap into the next one, because we're not done pulling these threads coming.